This story is titled, My Rich Uncle Found Out I Was Living in My Car While Working Two Jobs to Pay for College, and my cousins were making fun of me to everyone. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Okay, Reddit, this is going to be a long one. I, 19 female, need to write this down. Because honestly, my head's been spinning with everything that's happened. Really never thought I'd be sharing my life story on here, but whatever, here goes. It all started when my dad got diagnosed with cancer. I was 14, just starting high school, thinking my biggest problem was going to be algebra or something. Dad had been feeling tired for a while, but we thought it was just work stress. You know? Then, one regular Tuesday after school, Mom sat me down in our kitchen and told me he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The next 6 months were like watching a movie of someone else's life. Dad got super sick, super fast, lost all his hair, lost so much weight. His favorite Chicago Bears jersey looked like a tent on him. He tried to keep joking around, still helped me with my math homework even when he could barely sit up. The last thing he said to me was, "Don't let your mom's cooking kill you before I get back," when they took him to the hospital for the last time. That was just so Dad, always trying to make me laugh. He died on a Thursday. I remember because it was supposed to be pizza night. We'd always get a deep dish on Thursdays and had been doing it since I was little. Instead, I was sitting in a hospital waiting room with those stupid flickering fluorescent lights, watching my mom cry into her phone while telling our relatives. I thought that was going to be the worst part of my life. Boy, was I wrong. Mom totally lost it after Dad died. Started dating like 2 months later. Said she needed to feel alive again, or whatever. That's how she met Derek. Rich guy, real estate developer type. He started coming around all the time, bringing Mom fancy gifts, taking her on weekend trips. I tried to be happy for her, I really did. Dad wouldn't want her to be sad forever, right? But then she married Derek less than a year after Dad died. Didn't even tell me they were engaged. I found out when she told me to try on a junior bridesmaid dress she'd already bought. The wedding was at some fancy country club in Newport Beach. All of Derek's rich friends were there, looking at us like we were some charity case Derek had adopted. I spent most of the reception hiding in the bathroom, trying not to cry. That's when everything really changed. Mom and Derek moved into his massive house in Newport Beach. We're talking one of those places with a pool and a tennis court. But guess what? There wasn't room for me. Mom said I'd be more comfortable living with Dad's sister, Aunt Lisa, in Chicago. More comfortable for who, Mom? So I got shipped off to Chicago like some package nobody wanted. Aunt Lisa lives in this huge house in Lincoln Park with Uncle Marcus and my cousins Michael, 17 male, and Rebecca, 18 female. We used to be super close when we were kids. They'd come visit every summer, and we'd spend weeks making up stupid games and building blanket forts. But man, everything was different once I actually moved in. Suddenly, I wasn't their fun summer cousin anymore. I was this unwanted extra person in their house. They started acting like I was taking up their space, eating their food, breathing their precious air or something. Michael would accidentally knock over my stuff all the time. Rebecca would make these little comments about how her clothes were too nice to lend me when I first got there and didn't have winter stuff. Aunt Lisa was the worst, though. Made it super clear I was a burden. Started charging me rent even though I was still in high school. Who even does that? The really messed up part? Mom just stopped calling. Like, completely. She'd send money sometimes, not enough to actually cover the rent Aunt Lisa charged. But that was it. When I tried calling her, she was always too busy with her new life, too busy at yoga, too busy at charity events, too busy to talk to her own kid. I'd see pictures on Facebook of her and Derek on vacation in Europe, at fancy parties, living this whole other life where I didn't exist. She even archived all our old family photos, the ones with Dad and me, said they didn't match her new profile aesthetic, like I was just some old furniture that didn't go with her new decor. I started having these dreams when I was back in our old kitchen, where everything was normal. Now I would wake up crying in this weird bedroom at Aunt Lisa's house, staring at these fancy wallpapers that cost more than my whole wardrobe, feeling like I'd lost both parents instead of just one. So after that first month at Aunt Lisa's, she hits me with this rent increase because of property taxes or whatever. I'm like, I'm 15? But okay, guess I need a job. That's when my cousin Rebecca oh so helpfully tells me about this 24-hour laundromat that's hiring in what she calls the sketchy part of Chicago. It's this rundown building wedged between a closed-down dollar store and this super sus phone repair shop that I'm pretty sure never actually repairs any phones. The owner, this old guy named Jerry, takes one look at me and goes, "You're way too young to work midnight shift." But then I told him I could start that night and wouldn't complain about the pay. And suddenly my age wasn't such a big deal anymore. So my life became this crazy schedule that honestly still gives me anxiety thinking about it. Midnight to 6 a.m. at the laundromat, where I had to deal with the weirdest people you can imagine. The worst part wasn't even the weird customers. It was how cold that place got. The heating barely worked, and Chicago winters are no joke. I'd wear like 3 hoodies just to survive my shift. Never put that in the job description, did they? But one job wasn't enough to cover Aunt Lisa's rent, plus basic stuff like, food and school supplies. So I also started working at this gas station called from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is where my dear cousins decided to make my life extra fun. See, Quick Stop was right by their fancy private school, where tuition probably cost more than I made in a year. Michael and his friends thought it was hilarious to come in during my shifts and just trash the place. They'd knock over the chip displays I just organized, spill their Slurpees accidentally all over the floor, leave opened bags of beef jerky everywhere. Rebecca was worse, though. She was sneakier about it. She'd come in with her cheerleader friends, and they'd do this thing where they'd talk super loud about me like I wasn't there. Oh my God, can you imagine having to work here? Like I'd literally die. Or, ew, look at her uniform, it's so polyester. Then they'd take these awful pictures of me trying to clean up their messes and post them on their social media. The school stuff got bad too. I was going to the public high school nearby, and somehow Rebecca made sure everyone there knew about my jobs. People started leaving quarters on my desk for laundry. Someone stuck a name tag on my locker that said, "Washer Girl." Real creative, guys. Thanks. I was basically sleeping through all my classes, because who can stay awake when you're working from midnight to 6 a.m., trying to do homework from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., then working again from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m.? My grades started dropping. Teachers kept asking if everything was okay at home. I just told them I was adjusting to the move. The only good thing about the laundromat job was this homeless guy named Pete who'd come in most nights. He wasn't like the other weird customers. He showed me how to fix the quarter machine when it got stuck and taught me which customers were okay to let slide when they were a quarter short. One night, Pete tells me, "Kid, you're living life on expert mode right now." Made me laugh for the first time in weeks. He disappeared when winter hit bad. I still worry about what happened to him sometimes. Uncle Marcus owned the building, but I never saw him there. He had this property management company handle everything. Sometimes I'd see these fancy cars drive by real slow late at night. Later found out he'd send people to check on the place. Guess he was watching me more than I knew. Meanwhile, Mom's sending these random texts like, "Hope you're doing well," but never actually picking up when I called. Her Instagram was full of pictures from Derek's yacht parties and charity galas. Must be nice having so much time for charity when your own kid's working 2 jobs to survive. Aunt Lisa kept finding reasons to raise the rent. Utilities went up. HOA fees increased. Your room is prime real estate. Like, yeah, I'm sure that converted storage room in the basement with the weird mushrooms growing in the corner is really prime Chicago real estate. I started hiding cash in this old teddy bear Dad gave me before he died. Had this whole plan that once I saved enough, I'd get my own place. But every time I got close to a decent amount, something would come up. School fees. Winter boots when my old ones fell apart. That time, Michael accidentally backed his car into mine, and I had to pay for repairs myself. But the final straw came one day when I came home from my gas station shift and found my room completely torn apart. The bear was ripped open, stuffing everywhere. And guess what? All my savings gone. Rebecca swore she was just cleaning and had no idea about any money. Yeah, right. That same week, Aunt Lisa comes down to my basement room and tells me rent's going up again. Not just a little, we're talking double. Said something about property values in the area increasing. I did the math and realized even with both jobs, I couldn't afford it anymore. But here's the thing. I'd been taking classes at this community college nearby. Nothing fancy, just basic requirements, trying to get ahead while still in high school. The counselor there said I could maybe get financial aid if I took more classes. That meant I had to make a choice. Keep paying Aunt Lisa's crazy rent or try to get an education. So I picked education. Didn't really have a plan, just knew I couldn't stay there anymore. Packed up what could fit in my Toyota. The car had these weird rust spots all over it, and the heat only worked if you kicked the dashboard in exactly the right spot. But it was mine. First night sleeping in that car was actually kind of peaceful. Parked behind the laundromat, used my work keys to sneak in and use the bathroom. Had this whole setup. Reclined the driver's seat all the way back, used my work backpack as a pillow, layered like 5 blankets I'd borrowed from the lost and found box. Thought to myself, this isn't so bad. Then winter hit. Real Chicago winter. The kind where your spit freezes before it hits the ground. My car's battery started dying because of the cold, so I couldn't run the heat much. The hardest part wasn't even the cold or the lack of sleep. It was trying to look normal at school. Like, try explaining to your chemistry teacher why your homework's all wrinkled and smells like laundry detergent, or why you're wearing the same 3 outfits over and over. The school counselor kept trying to talk to me, but what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I live in my car, but don't worry. It's parked in a really nice alley. Then my dear cousin Michael decided to play detective. Guess he got suspicious about why I wasn't around the house anymore. Followed me one night after my laundromat shift. Next day, their TikTok had this whole video series called My Homeless Cousin, a Documentary. They filmed everything. My frost-covered windows, me trying to study using the light from the laundromat sign, even caught me changing clothes in the back seat once. The videos went viral in their rich kid circle. People started driving by the laundromat at night, honking their horns, throwing stuff at my car. The cops started coming around more too. Every couple of nights, there'd be a knock on my window. Can't sleep here, miss. So I'd drive around until they left, then come back. Spent a lot of nights just driving in circles, watching my gas gauge get lower and lower, praying I'd have enough to get to work the next day. You know what's weird though? I started noticing this black SUV parked across the street some nights. Always in a different spot, but always there. Tinted windows. Engine running. First thought it was cops or maybe some creep, but they never bothered me. Just sat there like they were watching. The temperature dropped to minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit one night. The kind of cold that makes your eyes hurt. My car wouldn't start, phone was dead, and the laundromat was closed for repairs. Thought, well, this is it. This is how I die. They're gonna find me frozen like those rats in the alley. Wrapped myself in every piece of clothing I owned and tried to think warm thoughts. That's when someone knocked on my window. I looked up and there's Uncle Marcus, standing in the snow like it's totally normal to be out at 2 a.m. in Arctic temperatures. He just goes, I think we need to talk. Turns out the black SUV, that was his. He'd been watching me through the laundromat security cameras for weeks, sending people to check on me. Said he wanted to see what I was made of. Who does that kind of messed up test? But honestly, at that point, I was too cold to care about his weird teaching methods. So there I was, basically turning into a human popsicle in my car, and Uncle Marcus is just standing there in his expensive wool coat, looking at me through the window. I'm thinking he's gonna lecture me or call the cops or something. Instead, he says, my office has better heating. Like this is some totally normal situation. His office was this small room above the laundromat I'd never been in before. Turns out he had this whole private space up there. Desk, mini fridge, coffee maker, even a little bathroom. While I'm defrosting my fingers around this cup of actually good coffee, he just sits there watching me like he's trying to solve a puzzle. Finally, he goes, you know, your dad and I used to sleep in a car too. Which, what? I almost dropped my coffee. See, I'd always known Uncle Marcus as this crazy rich real estate guy who wore suits that probably cost more than my car. But then he starts telling me this story I never knew. Apparently him and my dad grew up super poor. Like their mom worked 3 jobs and they still couldn't afford rent most months, kind of poor. Uncle Marcus pulls out his phone and shows me this ancient photo of 2 skinny teenagers sitting in a van, eating beans straight from the can. That's your dad on the left, he says. And yeah, same goofy smile I remembered, just on a much younger face. The whole time he's telling me this story, I'm sitting there trying to process it. Like, how did they go from homeless teenagers to, well, this? That's when he tells me about the laundromat. The original owner used to let them hang out inside during really cold nights. They'd help him fix machines, clean up, whatever needed doing. When the owner got sick, he offered to sell them the place. Dad had just started college on a scholarship, but Uncle Marcus had been working construction and saving every penny. So the owner sold it to him for basically nothing. That was his first property. Then he starts pulling out all these old documents from his desk, property deeds, contracts, business plans, all with my dad's notes in the margins. When your dad got sick, Uncle Marcus continues, he made me promise 2 things. First, to look out for you. Second, to make sure you learned how to look out for yourself. Then he gives me this look and goes, gotta say, you're doing better at the second part than I expected. I'm sitting there trying not to cry, failing pretty badly at it TBH, when he drops the real surprise. Turns out he owns like half the block around the laundromat now. Apartment buildings, stores, even that sketchy phone repair place. And he's been watching me through the security cameras this whole time, sending his guys in the SUV to keep an eye on me. You worked 2 jobs without complaining, kept your grades up, found ways to survive that most people wouldn't think of, even kept that laundromat running better than the manager I hired. He actually smiled when he said that last part. Jerry told me you fixed the quarter machine. Took my maintenance guy 3 tries to figure that out. That's when he pulls out this key. Says it's for the apartment above his office. A whole studio apartment I didn't even know existed. He told me it's mine. No rent, as long as I keep working at the laundromat and keep my grades up. I tried to say no. Like, this felt too much like charity or something, but he shut that down real quick. This isn't charity. This is an investment. You've got your father's brains and your own kind of determination. I'm investing in that. Then he shows me this whole file he's kept. Copies of my school records, work reports from Jerry, even screenshots of those awful TikToks Michael and Rebecca made. They thought they were shaming you, he says. All I saw was someone who refused to break. It's weird, you know? All this time I thought he was this cold, rich guy who didn't care, who let his wife treat me like garbage. Turns out he was testing me. Messed up way to do it, yeah, but I kind of get it now. He wanted to see if I had what my dad had. That thing that makes you keep going when everything's against you. Before I left his office that night, he said something else about Dad. Told me about their last conversation, when Dad was in the hospital. Dad made him swear not to just hand me everything, said I needed to learn to be strong on my own first. But, Uncle Marcus added, he also said to know when enough was enough. And kid, you've more than proved yourself. I spent that night in a real bed for the first time in months. The apartment wasn't fancy, just one room with a kitchenette and bathroom. But it was warm, clean, safe. But the morning after Uncle Marcus gave me the apartment, I woke up to my phone blowing up with text from Aunt Lisa. Turns out Michael had driven by the laundromat on his way to school and saw me walking down from the upstairs apartment. He took pictures, because of course he did. Aunt Lisa shows up at the laundromat during my shift, wearing her designer workout clothes and looking like she's about to explode. Starts screaming about how I'm trying to steal her husband, how I've been seducing him or whatever. Like, yeah, Aunt Lisa, I totally seduced him by being homeless and fixing washing machines. Super sexy. The customers were all staring, and this one old lady who comes in every Wednesday to wash her cat's blankets actually started recording the whole thing on her phone. Aunt Lisa's saying all this crazy stuff about how she always knew I was trouble, how I'm just like my mother, trying to take advantage of rich men. I'm just standing there with a mop in my hand, wearing my gross work uniform, thinking, is this really happening right now? Then Jerry comes out from the back room and tells Aunt Lisa she needs to leave before he calls the cops. She leaves, but not before telling me this isn't over. That night, I heard Lisa and Uncle Marcus having this huge fight upstairs in his office. Their voices were muffled, but I could make out Aunt Lisa screaming about that girl and how dare you. I felt so ashamed, like I'd ruined their marriage or something. Found out later Aunt Lisa slept at her friend's house that night. When I saw Uncle Marcus the next morning, he had dark circles under his eyes and just gave me this tired nod. But the weird thing is that my mom suddenly started calling me for the first time in months, acting all concerned. Honey, I'm hearing some disturbing things. Like she had any right to be concerned after abandoning me. I'm sure that someone, probably Rebecca, sent her the rumors. Then she and Derek show up at my apartment unannounced. Mom's wearing one of her new designer outfits. Her eyes scan my tiny studio apartment. Oh, honey, she says, but it sounds more calculating than concerned. This is quaint. Derek stays by the door like he's afraid poverty might be contagious. What are you doing here? I ask, not offering them a seat. There's nowhere to sit anyway, unless they want to join me on my unmade bed. Mom starts pacing my tiny space. We've been hearing things about you and your Uncle Marcus. The way she says it makes something twist in my stomach. What about Uncle Marcus? Come on, sweetie. She tries for a conspiratorial smile. I know what you're doing. It's clever, really. I would have never thought of it at your age. Thought of what? Getting close to Marcus like this. Working in his business. Playing the poor abandoned niece. I'm sure he's promised you quite a bit. The realization hits me like a slap. You think I'm trying to get his money? Well, aren't you? Living in this place, working in that laundromat, spending all that time with him? It's obvious what you're doing. I laughed, and it comes out harsh. Obvious to who? You? The woman who shipped me off to Chicago and forgot about me? That's not fair. No, you know what's not fair? You disappeared when Dad died. You married Derek, what, 10 months later? Sent me to Aunt Lisa's like I was some old furniture that didn't match your new decor? I was grieving, she says, but she's looking at her expensive watch, not at me. You were upgrading, I snapped back. trading up for a fancier life with your real estate husband and your charity galas. And now what? You're worried I might get some of Uncle Marcus's money before you do? Derek steps forward then, all fake authority. Now listen here, young lady. Your mother and I are concerned about your welfare. My welfare? The laugh bubbles up again, uglier this time. Where was this concern when Aunt Lisa was charging me rent at 15, when I was working 2 jobs and sleeping in my car? Mom waves her hand dismissively. Don't be dramatic. Lisa would never. Check my hospital records from when I got bronchitis sleeping in that car. Check the pay stubs from the gas station and the laundromat. Check the rent receipts Lisa made me keep. Oh, wait. You can't. You were too busy posting pictures from your yacht parties to even answer my calls. That's ancient history, Mom says. But she's fidgeting with her wedding ring, Dad's wedding ring that she had upgraded with bigger diamonds. We're here to help now. Derek has a friend who runs this wonderful boarding school in Switzerland. Now you want to help? My voice rises. Or did you just find out Uncle Marcus is teaching me about the business? Worried I might actually learn something? Get a piece of what you think should be yours? Mom's face changes then, gets harder. Drops the concerned mother act completely. Marcus was your father's brother. Anything of his should go to me, his wife, ex-wife, I correct, who remarried less than a year after he died. I deserve, she starts, but I cut her off. You deserve? Dad helped build this business. He and Uncle Marcus started with nothing. While you're busy planning charity galas with Derek, I'm learning how to fix washing machines and manage books and actually help people, just like Dad did. Your father was a teacher, she spits out. He played around with Marcus's business like it was some hobby. Get out, I point to the door. Go back to your perfect life with your perfect husband. Go plan another charity gala. Go archive some more family photos because they don't match your aesthetic. Just get out of my apartment. Derek tries one more time. Now see here. No, you see here. I'm surprised by how steady my voice is now. I know exactly why you're both here. You heard I was working with Uncle Marcus and got scared. Scared I might actually earn something you think should be yours. But here's the thing. I'm not you. I'm not here for anyone's money. I'm here because Uncle Marcus gave me a chance when you threw me away. Mom's face goes red. How dare you? How dare I? How dare you come here pretending to care about my welfare when all you care about is your bank account? I walk to the door and open it. By the way, Mom, that pantsuit makes you look desperate. They leave, Mom muttering something about ingratitude, and Derek already on his phone. I close the door and slide down against it, shaking. Through the thin walls, I hear Mom's voice. I told you this would happen. That little gold digger is going to try to take everything. So after the whole drama with Mom and Derek showing up, things got weirdly quiet for like a week. I was at work one night when Michael came running into the laundromat. He looked scared. Turns out he was using Aunt Lisa's iPad. A message popped up from someone saved as D that just said, "Everything's ready for next week. Lisa, baby, we're finally going to be free." Michael, being the nosy kid he is, opened the messages. Guess Aunt Lisa never logged out of her accounts on that iPad. Y'all, the D was Derek. As in my stepdad, Derek. As in my mom's husband, Derek. They'd been texting for months. Michael found all these emails, too. Plans for them to take a bunch of money from Uncle Marcus's business and run away together. They'd been planning it for almost a year. Every time Aunt Lisa raised my rent, that money went straight into some secret account. Michael showed up because he didn't know what to do. For the first time in his life, this kid who'd made fun of me being poor was realizing his mom was about to steal everything and leave him behind. I called Uncle Marcus. Not gonna lie, part of me wanted to just let everything blow up. After how they treated me, would have been some nice karma. Uncle Marcus came down to the laundromat right away. Michael was still shaking when he showed Uncle Marcus all the messages. I've never seen Uncle Marcus look so blank, like his face just shut down. He made some calls. Turns out his lawyer had been suspicious about some business accounts for a while. The numbers weren't adding up, but Aunt Lisa handled all the paperwork. Uncle Marcus trusted her with everything, so nobody looked too close. The lawyer looked through every account, every transaction. Know how much they were planning to steal? $4.3 million. They'd already moved almost $1 million to offshore accounts. All those times Aunt Lisa complained about property taxes and utility bills, she was stealing that money too. But the real blow? Some of that money came from Michael and Rebecca's college funds. Their own mom was stealing their future to run away with my stepdad. Uncle Marcus had this whole team of lawyers and accountants come in. They found all these fake companies Aunt Lisa had set up. She'd write checks to these companies for maintenance or supplies, but the money just went to more secret accounts. While all this was happening, Aunt Lisa was acting totally normal. Still posting her workout selfies on Instagram, still running her PTA meetings, still pretending to be this perfect rich mom. Derek was the same, taking my mom to charity events, buying her expensive stuff, playing the devoted husband. The lawyers said we needed to wait, get more evidence before confronting them. But Rebecca found everything on the iPad too. She came to my apartment one night, mascara all over her face from crying, asking if she could stay with me. First time in her life she didn't have a perfect place to sleep. It was weird having her there. This girl who'd made fun of me for being homeless was now basically homeless herself. She couldn't stand being in the same house as Aunt Lisa after learning everything. She slept on my tiny futon, used my cheap shampoo, wore my Target clothes, kept saying sorry for how she treated me. But honestly, watching her realize money doesn't make you a good person was enough. Uncle Marcus had his IT guys tracking all the accounts, watching every transaction. The plan was to catch them right before they tried to run. But Aunt Lisa must have figured out something was up, because she started moving money faster. The next morning was Michael's 18th birthday party. Aunt Lisa had planned this huge thing at their house, hired a DJ, catering, even got some mini golf set up in the backyard. She was acting extra nice to everyone, probably because she thought it was her last weekend there. Uncle Marcus decided that was when we'd confront them, have all the evidence ready, get everybody in one place. I remember Rebecca asking if we should warn my mom first, but Uncle Marcus said no. We needed to see her genuine reaction to know if she was involved. The morning of Michael's birthday party was weird. Like, super weird. Aunt Lisa's running around arranging centerpieces and checking the catering while literally planning to disappear with my stepdad the next day. Rebecca and I were helping set up, both knowing everything was about to explode, trying to act normal. Michael looked like he was going to throw up every time his mom hugged him. Uncle Marcus had this whole plan. His lawyer would show up unexpectedly with some urgent paperwork during the party. They'd gather everyone in the living room and then drop all the evidence. The FBI was actually waiting nearby. Yeah, actual FBI agents. Because apparently stealing millions from legitimate businesses while planning to flee the country is kind of their thing. My mom showed up early, all excited about the party. She hadn't talked to me since the whole Switzerland boarding school thing, but she was acting like everything was fine. Derek came in behind her, carrying this huge wrapped present. Found out later it was some fancy gaming system. Guess he was trying to buy Michael's silence or something. The party started at 2 p.m. All these rich kids from Michael's school showing up in BMWs and Mercedes their parents bought them. The DJ's playing music. People are swimming in the pool. Everything looks completely normal. Except Rebecca, Michael, and I are just watching Aunt Lisa and Derek, who keep checking their phones and whispering to each other. Around 4 p.m., the lawyer showed up. He's carrying this thick folder and looking super serious. Aunt Lisa's face when she saw him. I wish I had a picture. She knew they gathered everyone in the living room. Some of Michael's friends tried to stay, but Uncle Marcus was like family only, in this voice that made them leave real quick. My mom was complaining about interrupting the party, but then the lawyer started laying out documents on the coffee table. Bank statements, emails, transfer records, pictures of Aunt Lisa and Derek together from some private investigator. With each paper he put down, the room got quieter. Then he played a recording. Aunt Lisa and Derek talking about their plans, laughing about how stupid everyone was for not noticing. My mom stopped breathing when she heard Derek's voice. Just straight up froze. Aunt Lisa tried to say the recording was fake, but then Uncle Marcus pulled out her iPad, the one Michael found the messages on, started reading their texts out loud. Y'all! The screaming that happened next. Mom launched herself at Derek, started hitting him with her purse, which had like a million metal things in it BTW. Aunt Lisa tried to run for the door, but the FBI guys were already there. Some agent lady just goes, "Lisa Anderson, you're under arrest for wire fraud and embezzlement." They took them both away in handcuffs. Derek kept yelling about how he had a good explanation. Aunt Lisa was crying about how we'd ruined her life. But you know what the worst part was? Neither of them even looked at their kids. Like, your son's 18th birthday party just got turned into a crime scene and you can't even say sorry? Mom had a complete breakdown. Like, full-on hysterics. Turns out Derek had been using her money too. She'd signed a bunch of papers without reading them because she trusted him, she said, and he'd basically stolen everything she had left from Dad's life insurance. The next few weeks were crazy. The FBI investigation found even more stuff. Aunt Lisa and Derek had been planning this for over a year. They had fake passports, offshore accounts, this whole secret life ready to go. They'd stolen from pretty much everyone, the business, the kids' college funds, even charity money from those fancy events they were always going to. While all this was happening, Uncle Marcus was watching how everyone handled it. Rebecca and Michael basically moved into my tiny apartment. We had this whole system. Michael slept on the futon, Rebecca shared my bed, and we all shared one bathroom, which was interesting. They both got jobs at the laundromat. Rebecca's actually really good with customers when she's not being mean to them. And Michael? Kid's got a talent for fixing machines. He figured out this problem with the industrial dryer that even the repair guy couldn't fix. Mom went to rehab, not for drugs or anything, just to deal with everything. She'd been so focused on looking perfect, having the perfect rich life, that she'd ignored all the red flags about Derek. Uncle Marcus really stepped up. He's been teaching us all about the business. Says he wants us, me, Rebecca, and Michael, to run it together someday. We each have different strengths. I'm good with numbers like my dad was, Rebecca's great with people when she tries, and Michael's got this weird genius thing with machines. Last week, we all went to visit Dad's grave. First time we'd been there together. Uncle Marcus told us more stories about him, about how he'd helped build this whole business while still being a teacher, because he believed in helping people. Aunt Lisa and Derek are in jail now. Turns out stealing millions and planning to flee the country is kind of illegal. They're both trying to blame each other, which would be funny if it wasn't so sad. Michael and Rebecca still struggle with it. Like, imagine finding out your mom cared more about running away with someone else's husband than she did about you. But you know what's weird? We're actually better now. Like all of us. Mom's dealing with her issues instead of hiding them behind designer sunglasses. Rebecca and Michael learned what it's like to actually work for things. I learned that sometimes letting people help you isn't a weakness. Sometimes I look around at my life now and can't believe how different everything is from a year ago. Like, I'm sitting here in the laundromat office, my office now, I manage the place, and it hits me. Although I lost my family, I'm doing much better now. TLDR. Found out aunt and stepdad were secret lovers planning to steal millions and run away. They got arrested at a birthday party. Mom had a breakdown, went to rehab, cousins learned humility through laundry, and we all somehow became a real family. Also, Dad was playing 4D chess from beyond the grave.